It's estimated that the Canterbury Plains have lost over 99% of their indigenous vegetation pre-colonisation, and so it really puts into perspective how precious these remnant trees are. They're a piece of Canterbury's relics of the past. The Perpetual Forestry Project is a really cool collaboration between our forestry departments and biodiversity teams, and it was kind of born in a response to the lack of emphasis on our biodiversity values within and around the forestry estate.
I came on board with Environment Canterbury 2022, so a year into the project. The first year there was a need to identify the remnant native areas in the commercial forest estate and make sure that we were protecting those.
Environment Canterbury manages over 3,000 hectares of commercial forestry, and within that there's some really cool native vegetation that needs protecting and can be benefited from enhancing as well. Here in Maclean's Island we have some remnant kōwhai and kānuka trees, for example, that have managed to persist despite the intensive land use. It's easy to think of forestry and biodiversity existing completely separately and not really being able to coexist. Once we started identifying these remnant trees, we realised that it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can actually use the commercial forestry block and the value that the trees can provide in terms of shelter as a mechanism to gain that successful establishment when it comes to native plantings.
And so this site here is a really good example of that, coming up with the ideas of how to upscale the native afforestation, and a big part of that was the desire to enter it into the ETS and have that supplementary income coming through from that. It's creating habitat in the short term, but then in the long term we're really hoping that it's going to be creating more seed sources that are sort of scattered throughout the forestry estate. The goal is to really be able to facilitate that natural process anyway and sort of create ecosystems that can sustain themselves. Environment Canterbury, as land managers, are facilitating that movement of birds from mountains to sea, ecological corridors.
A pretty constant challenge is pest animal and browsing from rabbits and hares in Maclean's Island.
At this site we initially used core fibre guards which break down quite quickly, just making sure the seedlings are protected for long enough to make sure that they have the best chance of getting through that initial stages.
What we've obviously learned pretty quickly is how forestry biodiversity can actually benefit each other in certain situations. Obviously the revenue generated from commercial forestry for the council is put back straight into our restoration goals, using the existing pine trees as a way of establishing what is a hugely heavily modified area and what is quite a challenging place to try and do some native revegetations. They can mutually coexist and actually benefit each other as well.
We've had really positive results with seeing a lot of native seedlings coming up naturally, which is really positive. Having more native forests, particularly close to Christchurch, that are publicly accessible, it allows people to have a connection back to the land. We have these pine plantations which are, great from a commercial perspective, but I think you really lack that sort of connection to the area.
Our findings, our successes, our losses, they can be shared and we can kind of all go on that journey together to improve the situation of biodiversity, particularly in Canterbury where we've got a really cool opportunity with these river corridors to really enhance them and diversify what they're used for land-wise.
The goal here is letting nature do the work for us.